Hello, everyone. Welcome to this training session and recording of the Stepcare model tool. Specific focus now is moving away from the extension of our leadership development trainings and really having an opportunity to present the purpose and usage of the Stepcare model for staff at all levels of organizations. This presentation today is going to focus not only on the printable material of the Stepcare model tool, but I will also lead you through an example of supporting an individual as it relates to also using our digital tool. So we will have access to be able to view and explore that tool later on in this presentation. First, a little bit of background. The intention of this training and recording is to build on that identified need and the trends of being able to increase our comfort levels in communication when it comes to supporting colleagues, reaching that desired state of workplace mental health, navigating and accessing well-being supports to nurture individual well-being, but predominantly encouraging a psychologically safe work culture through the usage and sponsorship of this universal tool and structure. A bit of background on the project. In 2022, representatives from 16 organizations in the Central Region, they joined to form this pool of respondents that began the work of what they now call or identify as the Organizational Health and Wellbeing Strategy. At that time, in 2022, healthcare was in the throes of another high level of wave through the pandemic. It was experiencing high levels of distress and great indicated levels of burnout of its workers. Also, at this time, it was abundantly clear that the most promotions of supports and services were in a reactive mode rather than prevention and promotion of well-being. And there was also identified that there was not one set standard universal tool to support healthcare workers. So the goal of this project and the intake process was to first assess each of those central region organizations as it related to their maturity level in current practices, policies, and programs that sponsor the commitment and promotion of employee well-being and psychological health. They then took the responses, analyzed and compiled them, and they were then used to create a tool that would become universal for all of the 16 organizations to begin to use as this foundational piece in their practice for employee well-being. These trainings are in response to the development stage of the project prior to the initiation and rollout. So results from those intake assessments demonstrated across the 16 organizations very robust systems that support psych health, safety, and wellness. However, there was not one universal system to support across all organizations and varying levels of maturity. So in creating this Stepcare model tool, the project wanted to ensure this definitive common language and also type of service or support recommended related to the varying levels of need, but also to ensure a more consistent process and communication strategy of those services that were focused on high quality, culturally responsive, and accessible to all. So the current focus, again, of this recording and this training is really to increase the communication and confidence for staff at all levels of organizations. The Stepcare model itself, you will see that visual in the center. I do realize that some of these are blurry, but the accompanying resources through the digital tool, you will be able to print and have access to them. But you will see that the tool itself is a 3-tiered implementation strategy. And that's why training on the proper usage of the Stepcare model tool is demonstrating that measured approach. Each tier of the tool serves a unique purpose. And although they're mutually exclusive, they really share this interconnectedness to working through each area of the wellness wheel with that primary goal of being able to improve or sustain coping skills and strategies and help focus on reaching an individual's desired state for well-being and mental health by doing so in connecting to those high-quality supports and services. One thing I will stress is when or if you are supporting an individual and navigating through this tool, or you are using this yourself, please try to resist the temptation to rush through the process. Take that time to dig a little deeper, to ask the right questions as to how you are truly feeling, so that you can first complete that first section of the well-being wheel. And through the directions, they will carry you through the rest of the Stepcare model tool as a self-guided measure. So you will see on the right-hand side, because this is a 3-tiered strategy, there are 3 very specific sections with their own set of instructions and dialogue on how to navigate. The poster format itself, you will see along the top as well, there is a title and brief description of the tool, but those directions for staff are also located in the top right corner, so that any individual coming upon this poster will have the awareness of how to implement, how to use it. So the first step, let's increase some awareness, some self-awareness of how we are feeling and why it's important to know. So the first step of the Stepcare model is the well-being wheel. This is a tool for self-exploration, and what it's doing is promoting that concept of how our emotions and feelings drive our behaviors and needs. So this should sound familiar for any work related to emotional intelligence. You're using these emotional and physical symptom prompts that you or an individual is experiencing to give them an opportunity as they move through the Stepcare model tool to be able to hone in on their most accurate and current state of wellness by identifying areas in their life. As you will see, it is broken down into each sections to feeling and thinking, physical energy, as well as work functioning. So it will break it down into different areas that perhaps they need or their goal is to seek to improve, or perhaps based on their emotional state have been neglecting as of late. So the first step in the well-being wheel is to asking you to stop, take pause, consider those emotional and physical symptom prompts that you're experiencing, and then turn to the well-being wheel and locate a description or a quadrant that best describes how you are currently feeling in that check-in. You will notice that throughout the tools, there will be the same color scheme. So from the right-hand side of the well-being wheel, where it is displaying quadrants more related to resilience, I feel healthy and resilient, life is good, or the lower right-hand quadrant where perhaps somebody is feeling a little bit of elements of stress, but overall doing okay. Those sections are the light green sections in the right-hand side. And then as an individual perhaps is experiencing greater or more elevated levels of stress, the color scheme and flow will go from that medium to light blue into the dark blue. Around the well-being wheel, it's important to also note there is an identified focus for care related to that. And also there are indicated step numbers. This is important to know. So as an individual is using this well-being wheel and checking in, they are first stopping and taking pause as to how they're feeling, why they're feeling it, and then referring to this well-being wheel to accurately describe their check-in. And once they've completed that, next to their quadrant on the wheel will be those indicated steps. You need that range of steps before you can proceed to the second section of the tool. So for the sake of this training, perhaps somebody is checking in, I'm feeling somewhat stressed, but overall okay. So you will see that is falling in the lower right-hand side quadrant. The color scheme again is in the green. The focus is resilience. And you will see those steps 1 through 3 is the range. Once you've identified on this check-in the range of steps on the well-being wheel, you can then proceed to the second section. So arriving at the second section of individual inquiry, you completed that initial check-in using the well-being wheel, and now you are ready to explore the second tier using a more in-depth self-assessment. So taking that range of steps that were identified on the well-being wheel, you're going to locate them on this self-assessment tool. You will see this pyramid, steps 1 at the bottom, flowing all the way up to step 9. Again, the same color scheme of light green to dark blue, right, basing on level of need. And once you've located those range of steps on this self-assessment tool, you're asked to then read the statements located to the right of each of those steps within that range. When you're reading those, what you're looking for really is to most accurately refine and define that statement and level of need. We're encouraging people also, if you feel the need to read the statement above and below, again, this is to better prepare you to identify that most accurate step. So once an individual has completed the well-being wheel, they've moved down into the second section of individual inquiry, you have located your range of steps and read the statements to the right. You have now chosen and determined the one statement that best describes you and your level of need. You are going to take that step number that is located to the left of the statement, and that is what you are going to need as you move to the final section of the Stepcare model tool. So once you've identified, read the statements, chosen the step number, you can proceed to the final section of the Stepcare model tool. So moving down, now you have arrived at the final section on the Stepcare model tool, the poster version. And this is where all of the support tools are identified. At a first quick glance, you again will see the breaking down of the pillars of level of health need based on title, sustainable health in the light green, with the focus of resilience. The middle section of the lighter blue, supportive health. That focus of this section is debriefing, scanning, and planning. And again, the dark blue, the critical health pillar, where the focus is on treating the condition. So you will see across the top, those pillars that are indicated, you will see the same color scheme. Directly below the titles of those pillars, again, you will see the step ranges from 1 through 9 flowing from left to right. Under each step is a list of programs and activities and resources that have been identified for this universal tool to best support that level of need. Because this is a universal tool and it was built on the responses from the intake assessment from 16 different organizations, this is where their responses have been populated into this tool based on level of well-being need. The messaging and consistency in the language will remain the same from the printable poster to the digital tool, so that staff who are working at multiple organizations or perhaps starting in a new one, the format and the procedure to use this tool remains the same. When you are at your own internal organization, some of them have considered and taken on the task of adding examples of each step related to what is offered internally to better communicate also to their staff of what is available internally. These programs and activities, as you flow through the tool and you see what is listed under each step, some of those resources and supports have an asterisk located to the right of them. This is to indicate Ontario government funded programs and services that are universal to all. So accessible, culturally responsive, and available at a universal access level. This section of the Stepcare model tool also will indicate who that step is intended for. So based on varying levels of within your organization or benefits packages or unions, there may be some differences in what specifically is available. Universal access will remain an employee assistance program access. Again, also identifying and breaking down into basic access benefits and availabilities and comprehensive access. So again, maybe dependent on position or union. The bottom of the poster also is very important, where if you have any questions, concerns, comments, or would like support in navigating the tool or beyond the usage of these support tools, please speak to your manager or an occupational health representative so they can help support you in the finding those available resources or supports, again, specific to your organization or with the usage of this tool. So I will spend a little bit more time on this section and breaking down what each pillar or section of health is related to. So the first section on the left of sustainable health, this is focusing on individuals who are experiencing stress. But again, in the Wellbeing Wheel, we identified overall are feeling okay. And the programs that are offered here are mostly ones that are primarily focused on improving resilience. So these are including any type of drop-in activity, any informational self-help resource, interactional self-help sessions, or even some webinars or courses that are offered. This section also will have a more direct link to your occupational health department, or if your organization sponsors an employee health and wellness coordinator, this is where ensuring that there's available programming or supports or resources in your organization, those would be your key subject matters for this section. For those working in sites that are not necessarily central to access, this is also an area where you can have these conversations with your manager or occupational health representative to again help identify the desire to attend a certain program or navigating how they can help support you in accessing some of these identified suggested programs and supports. The second section, the middle section of supportive health, this is focusing on individuals who are experiencing more acute levels of distress, and it's offering specific targeted debriefing or planning supports. So this includes services to connect with a peer with similar experiences if you have an internal peer support program. This can also include support after a specific event if there is a catalyzing or traumatic event within your organization. But also there is a strong focus on connecting with an expert on that as needed basis. Some of these available will be again in-house when you're looking at more of that step for peer support, but with also extending it beyond that committee level or mentorship programs. Outside services are also identified that an individual can either self-refer or again, have that sponsorship and support from a manager, a leader, or an occupational health representative in assisting you with a referral completion process. We have done some communications prior to this based on the Frontline Wellness program, because again, identifying that need for immediate supports, high levels of burnout and anxiety being experienced. The Frontline Wellness program under the Waypoint lens has extended their services to also be able to include programming and supports as it relates to even step 3, interactional self-help with their coping skills groups and group therapy. But again, also the one-to-one counseling and interventions are also available as you move through the tool more towards steps 5 and 6. The last section on the far right, critical health in the dark blue, this is focusing on individuals who are displaying or experiencing severe distress and offers more intensive service options. The majority of services offered on this end are not facilitated directly through an organization. They are primarily referral basis, but they can support these services through also benefits packages, employee assistance programs, and also varying levels and degrees of programming offered through Ontario government funded programs and services. So with that, again, I want to note the asterisks located to the right of these indicated programs are again identifying those Ontario government funded programs and services. When you've reached this level of the Stepcare model tool, the individual is really tasked to pick one actionable support tool or resource that they can put into action as it relates to the plan that will be coming up on the next screen. So we're also using this tool to support that element of that greater self-awareness and offering that check-in. But now let's put it into action to access programs, supports, services, or develop our skills that will help either sustain or maintain current level of well-being, or also offer skill development opportunities to access in those times of higher levels of distress or burnout. So the action plan will be available to download or to fill out in real time on the digital tool. It will also be made accessible as a printable resource. But this is where employees are really encouraged and empowered to take care of their own mental health using this action item document. This is the piece that is really going to encourage individuals to take that ownership and control over supporting, developing, sustaining their well-being. And it's using these prompts throughout the tool, breaking it down into different well-being dimensions that will help increase understanding and awareness. So in this action tool, if you have the support from a leader or a manager in navigating this and helping you create a plan, this is where sponsorship is absolutely instrumental. After having these confident conversations, follow through is going to be especially important, not only for you as an individual to have that supervisor citizenship and support of someone helping you navigate these resources, supporting you in accessing them, but also in being able to follow up and round back on what is working, what can we continue to work on or improve, or how can others support you in this process. And it's really just taking the time to connect and walk through these prompts and questions to create that personal action plan. So again, this action plan, consider this step 4 of the Stepcare model tool. It's giving you talking points. Follow-up at the bottom of this document is instrumental, whether you are setting up a follow-up conversation to happen within 24 hours or 48 hours, or perhaps it's even a week, to just do another check-in and rounding opportunity so that you can bring this down to a more supportive and personal level. And talking about sensitive or concerning subjects can be upsetting or perhaps even awkward in the moment. So it's really good to reconvene for that additional connection and just exploring other opportunities to support in keeping mental health on the agenda. So this was really just a breakdown of the Stepcare model tool as it will be in its printable poster format that will be displayed across 1 to 16 organizations. And now I want to have an opportunity to guide you through using an example. So looking at this from a lens of, if you are a colleague supporting a fellow coworker who perhaps is in crisis, or just having that opportunity to engage in conversation, letting them know that the support is there, you have their back. We are going to use this example for the Stepcare model tool based on Ross from a very popular show, Friends. If you have not seen this show, I will be playing a video clip to give you a little bit greater perspective on the specific example or of individual for type of support. The reason why we chose this one is because often when people are asked how they are doing in a workplace, they'll express just "I'm good" or "I'm fine," which is really just above surface. And often people are responding this way because they don't want to bring their colleagues or their teams down. They don't want how they're feeling to affect the culture of their workplace, or they just are not feeling confident or comfortable possibly of talking about it. So the usage of the Stepcare model tool is really putting this narrative and this awareness that mental health and support needs to be on the agenda. It is a priority. So I'm going to lead you through this. And what it's going to do is ask you to hone in on not only your self-awareness skills, but that social awareness skills and being able to identify in others level of need or maybe certain ways that you can support.
I'm fine.
Really?
Absolutely. I'm fine. Totally fine. I don't know why it's coming out all loud and squeaky, because really, I'm fine.
So just giving you an example, if you then were referring back to that well-being wheel, what were some things that you observed based on his nonverbal communication, his verbal communication, tone of voice, and just all those different elements that you can take into play?
I'm fine.
Get through this slide. So bringing us back to the use of the Stepcare model tool, again, this is going to bring you back to step one. You are asking that individual now to turn to the well-being wheel and have an opportunity to reflect on their current state of well-being to best help determine that health category of where they are falling to get those step ranges. So again, the goal is to complete a check-in, that self-awareness strategy, and begin to define a range of steps. So in referring to the well-being wheel, you would have Ross or support Ross, and based on his presentation and your awareness and compassion skills, take a moment to consider where you feel Ross might check in when using this well-being wheel. So again, I asked you to consider his nonverbal and verbal communication, being able to identify based on your own level of awareness, empathy skills, where you feel he might be best checking in. Once you have completed this, I want you again to identify what that range of steps are located to that check-in where you feel Ross best falls in this well-being wheel check-in. Once you've established the range of steps, you will then be able to proceed to the next section. So again, section 2, highlighting that individual inquiry self-assessment. We're going to move on to that using our range of steps that were identified in the well-being wheel to this second tier. Once we've arrived here, you are taking the range of steps again identified on the well-being wheel, and you're going to locate them on this self-assessment. Once you've located them in the middle section of this column of the columns, you are then going to read the statements to the right of each step with the goal of refining and determining the most accurate statement or level of need. So if you are Ross checking in, you are reading those statements to the right to identify one. If you are a colleague of Ross, you are supporting them and reading these and helping them refine to the most accurate statement and step before you can proceed down into the final section of the Stepcare model to be able to view those available and accessible supports. So once you've read the statements and chosen a step number, you will then proceed to the next slide. This next slide and section, again, falls on the support tools. This is being able to locate that indicated final step that you just did in the self-inquiry section, finding it on the support tool pillar list, and being able to locate and see what available supports, tools, and services can best support you based on that level of need. Remembering also, when you go to this section, the goal is to pick and consider choosing at least one resource that you can take to explore and utilize when creating the action plan. So we've navigated down into the support tools. This is that section that refines that connection and communication of support services and offerings from one location for all of the employees. So again, this is demonstrating how robust the mental health supports or psychological health, safety, and wellness systems are to be able to support varying levels of need. Again, these support tools are also communicating and sponsoring, moving away from a reactive approach to accessing supports and getting mental health on the agenda so that it can be viewed in a more prevention and promotion continuum to sustain support or, again, react in varying levels of well-being need. So once you've gone through, you've found the step that you indicated for Ross, you have viewed the list of resources and supports located under that step number, you are encouraging him to pick one before you move on to the action plan. Again, step 4, we discussed the final section of the action plan. It is available as a downloadable and printable document on the digital tool portal, but also will be available to be able to print and have access to in your service areas. But again, another review of this tool that is taking that one actionable support and being able to have these open conversations and setting a plan of action and some goals related to accessing supports, encouraging skill development, or encouraging the sustainment or being able to access well-being supports while at work, to be able to encourage that balance between work and life, and also workplace mental health and well-being. It should also be noted, and you will be able to explore this as we skip over to the digital tool, that we were very mindful to create a document that would give you even greater and quicker access to supports. So we're taking away that step of, now that you've identified on the Stepcare model tool final section what support or resource would best fit your level of need and into that action plan, but then having to go and dig, where do I access it? How do I find it? This quick resource tool page is a quick link on the digital tool. We have again broken down those quick resources based under the pillar and health needs. In the digital tool, I will lead you through this. When you get to the final section for the action plan, this document itself outlining all 3 pillars will be available for the sustainable health and supportive health sections. If an individual on the digital tool is falling in the critical health section, the quick resource link will only be access or identified quick resources strictly to critical health. We wanted to be able to condense and increase the focus on being able to access immediate supports and services. I am displaying this just for the sake of conversation. Some organizations have taken it upon themselves to also create a quick reference resource sheet for internal supports. This is to be used as an additional support for all staff as well as leaders, to be able to demonstrate what is available in-house. This is also being able to be worked into their psychological health, safety, and wellness management systems or desired state work plans and programs, to be able to, when we rally back and start to do that evaluation methods, where all staff are going to be able to provide their feedback on potential also services that they feel might best benefit those pillars of need, and to see if we can bring those structures and systems internally. So I'm going to go back because I want to be able to display and show you more about the digital tool. So as we skip over, so the digital tool is a domain that will be located primarily on Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care on our site. If you are a Waypoint staff member, there are multiple avenues where you can access internally. We have it under our Waypoint bookmark section on our internet site, or you will be able to access it on a QR code that can be added into the posters, or also just the digital tool link will be available. So this primary open introductory page is a welcome to the Stepcare tool. Again, for employee emotional and psychological support. It was made to bring awareness to help you access resources that match the emotional and psychological needs of employees. So as we move over, again, it gives them a descriptor, how the model is composed of 3 tiers and the purpose of what those 3 tiers are, but that the well-being wheel and that check-in opportunity is really the heart of this Stepcare model tool. Again, it was indicating that the digital tool has been designed to guide you through your emotions and to help navigate you to the most appropriate support. So you have access to be able to toggle over. It's sort of like a choose your own adventure, the descriptors. Before we move on to, I've already used this tool, or I know how this tool works and getting to access the tool, I just want to draw your attention at the bottom of the introductory page on the digital tool. There are ready-made links and portals related to support you in different resources. We have been mindful to add an entire for manager section so that we can continue to increase that comfort and confidence in the purpose and the implementation of the Stepcare model. So when you click on the manager's portal, you will be able to see a previous recording on the Stepcare model tool and its usage. You will also be able to print a leader's guide, so more of a pamphlet or booklet document guiding you through the Stepcare model tool if you are more a visual paper and hands direction. Again, the action plan on how to support. If you are prepping for a confident conversation, you can come into this manager's portal first and you can print the action plan and have it readily available for that conversation. And also, again, that quick reference or quick resource link sheet that I just demonstrated on a previous slide, you have access to click and download in its immediacy right here. So I'm just going to go back to the home page and I'm going to show you how it is quick and easy to navigate. So when you click start the tool, it will bring you to part 1. Again, there is a descriptor over what the section is and what its purpose is and how to navigate it. You will see along the bottom that progression strip. So as you move through the tool, it will continue to fill so you can see what step or how close you are to finishing that this Stepcare digital tool check-in. So part 1 is the WellBeing Wheel. It's used to help determine your health category. I'm just going to click next. And it will bring you again to this descriptor. Select the feeling that reflects your current well-being on the WellBeing Wheel to determine your health category. At any time, you can go back if you want more information or to start over. You can click on this button, just toggling over. But it's asking you, how are you feeling? So as you toggle over each of those quadrants, just to first get a descriptor, you toggle over, it will highlight that area and you're asked to click on it. And as you click on it, it highlights that range of steps. If you remember the WellBeing Wheel, what we're being tasked is to determine the range of steps before moving on to the second section. I'm going to click on the elevated levels of stress. So we've clicked on this. It is highlighted steps 4, 5, and 6. Here's our range. The color scheme again is that light to medium color blue. And then you're going to click next. This next section is asking you, do the following descriptors fit your emotional state? If yes, after you're done your check-in, you're referring back, relating those physical and emotional symptoms and prompts. Again, even identifying some areas related to work functioning that your check-in might be affecting. If these descriptors fit, you click next and continue throughout the tool. If for whatever reason, they are not most accurately describing how you are feeling, you can click back and it will bring you back to being able to refine. So perhaps it's more, I am feeling stressed, but overall I'm feeling okay. And the steps 1, 2, and 3 are more accurate. But for the sake of going through this and our Ross check-in, I'm just going to click on the elevated levels of stress. He has then gone through this, or you have gone through this, and you're most accurately defining, and you've decided that yes, these descriptors fit your emotional state. Moving on to part 2. Individual inquiry for self-assessment. Again, this step will narrow down the degree of what your emotional check-in was to help provide you with refining for resources. So you again will see that this toggle bar, the timeline is moving through. You're clicking next. You've arrived at individual inquiry self-assessment. It's telling you to select the statement below that best aligns with this supportive health emotional state and helped you for determining the WellBeing Wheel. Again, you were asked to read those descriptions and statements by toggling over and finding one that most accurately describes your level of need. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to say that the individual is checking in. I would like to connect with a professional to talk about my current emotions and/or well-being. Again, when you click on that, it will highlight it, which will then prompt next to continue through. If these statements are not accurately defining your emotional state, again, you can click back to help further refine. So clicking next, it is determining that based on that check-in on that self-assessment, step 6 for expert-assisted support on the WellBeing Wheel is best suited for my current emotional state. So by clicking next, we're going to then be able to see a list of support tools available to me. So if you think back to the Stepcare model poster tool, this is that final section. This is that column located under that most refined step that was determined in the middle section of the Stepcare model. So again, these messaging, you're almost there. Please see the list of resources below that are available to you. As a first step in this section, take a moment and decide which one resource might be the most helpful to you at this time. If at any point you require support to help navigate, access, or complete a referral to any of these resources, you can reach out to your manager. And again, so you're just going through the programs and supports, remembering also that the asterisks located beside those are indicating government resources, universal access to all. So once we have picked our one resource, I'm going to say Frontline Wellness is the one program that we have chosen or identified to seek further as we create our action plan. You're going to click next for the final section. You've completed the Stepcare model tool. With that one selected resource in mind, now it's time to create your action plan. Again, connect with your manager if you need support in creating or establishing this document. Each of these final sections will have the same messaging in bold and red that for immediate assistance, please call 911 or your local emergency department. If you are in that critical health or you are at risk to yourself or to others for harm, please, please, please contact your emergency room. I had indicated that before this section in completing the action plan, you can click here. That will lead you directly to that quick resource document with the links for programs and services. This is especially important if you are supporting an individual or if you are an individual needing to complete a referral to one of those programs or supports. Again, if you need support or assistance with a referral, you can contact your family doctor or manager for more details. That is on varying levels of need, and it's asking you to download the action plan. So taking you to this action plan, it's really important. Again, I had mentioned that you can fill this out in real time so that you're taking away that step of having to print it, go to the printer and come back. It is, again, giving you a description of what this action plan is for, and it's helping you to guide through with these questions to create your personal plan of action. It is broken down into different dimensions of support. It is broken down into different elements of how your leader or manager or an individual can help support you in those areas, and really giving you an opportunity for that autonomy or empowerment to be able to identify how they can best serve you and support you with this. Again, that follow-up section is most important because it's giving you any follow-up items. It's being able to set down and set a target date to round back, to re-review this action plan, to have a conversation about any elements that might need to be shifted or changed, or perhaps even celebrated from accessing these supports. So once you've completed this, again, we've gone through these areas. For Waypoint specifically, where you can find the digital tool, our organization has added this to the bookmark section. It is again on the main page of our intranet site. It is just really important to be able to know where and how to access. I'm going to skip through these. We are doing some more trainings, but for the sake of this recording, I want to bring everyone's attention again to the reference and celebration of all the different resources and supports that we've had in creating this tool, the rollout and development of the training opportunities. But again, if you ever have any questions related to the Stepcare model, the tool, the digital tool or access, please do not hesitate to email wellness@waypointcenter.ca. We will help best navigate you through those questions and conversations as we move through the launch and implementation of this universal tool, with the hope that really it is supporting and sponsoring a healthy workplace, endorsing that conversation and narrative for workplace culture, but mostly it is increasing the awareness and access to supports for healthcare workers or individuals in being able to sustain and support your overall well-being and coping skills and strategies. So thank you for joining me in this presentation. I hope that everybody had an opportunity to learn something, and just welcome any feedback or comments related to the tool. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.